Late one night in March 2018, gunshots shattered the quiet of a home in Austin, Texas. Inside the house were Ted Schoenze and his wife, Corey Schoenze. They had gone to bed as usual, but in the early hours of the morning, unexpected intruders silently made their way into their home. When their dog Bart started barking, Ted got out of bed, grabbed his gun, and headed toward the source of the noise. However, at that moment, merciless gunfire erupted, and he was shot multiple times, falling where he stood. Startled awake by the sudden gunfire, Corey quickly grabbed her own gun and confronted the intruders. The attackers were visibly caught off guard by Corey's fierce resistance, and an intense shootout ensued. But she soon ran out of ammunition and was forced to take refuge in a closet. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone. Outside, there was no sound, and the house had fallen into an eerie silence. What exactly had happened here? Who had targeted this couple? Ted and Corey, who had started their jewelry business in the early 1990s, were perfect partners both in business and marriage. Ted sold sparkling jewels to customers with his bright smile, while Corey expertly managed operations with her keen business sense. Their fantastic partnership helped develop the jewelry store into a highly profitable enterprise. The childless couple decided to adopt a 16-month-old baby from a Ukrainian orphanage in 2000. Nicholas, or Nick for short, captured the couple's hearts from their very first meeting. Nick grew up receiving unconditional love from Ted and Corey. He particularly enjoyed sharing his father Ted's passion for cars and racing, often trying on racing helmets and gloves while helping his father work on cars. During his teenage years, Nick showed no concerning behavior, and in high school he fell in love with Jackie Edison. As Jackie grew closer to Nick, she also became close with his family. Although Corey initially didn't care for Jackie, she gradually came to accept her. After graduating high school in 2017, Nick and Jackie moved to College Station, about 2 hours from Austin, to live independently. This is why only Ted and Corey were home when the crime occurred. When Corey finally emerged from hiding after the gunfire ceased, the scene before her was horrific. Blood covered the floor and her husband lay lifeless. Their beloved dog, who had been like family, had also been killed. When police urgently arrived at the scene, they began their investigation, and unexpected truth slowly started to emerge. The interior of the mansion resembled a war zone. Ted, 55, was found in a pool of blood near the kitchen table. The autopsy revealed multiple gunshot wounds to his head, back, thighs, and buttocks. Bart, one of the family's 2 Rottweilers, was also found shot dead. The crime scene investigators discovered shocking evidence throughout the house. Bullet holes riddled the walls, shattered glass was scattered everywhere, and numerous shell casings littered the floor. What particularly caught the investigators' attention was the type of shell casings found. 2 different kinds, .40 caliber and .380 caliber, indicated there were at least 2 shooters. Corey told investigators that she and Ted kept about 20 firearms in the house, and she had used a .357 revolver to defend against the intruders. The intense gunfight was evident from the scene's condition. Investigators paid special attention to an open window on the first floor. The window screen had been carefully removed and placed beside the window, suggesting this was the intruder's point of entry. The window led to an empty room where investigators made a significant discovery. An empty case for a .40 caliber firearm was found in a drawer. This suggested that one of the guns used by the intruders might have come from inside the house. The fact that the shell casings found near the victim matched the caliber of this empty gun case strengthened suspicions that this wasn't a simple robbery. Corey told police she had always thought they might become targets due to their jewelry business. Initially, investigators leaned toward this theory, assuming criminals might have expected valuable items in a jeweler's home. However, strangely, nothing in the house had been stolen. This suggested that robbery might not have been the motive from the start. When Nick and his girlfriend Jackie arrived at the scene around 8 a.m. after hearing the news, they stated they had been in College Station, 2 hours away from Austin, at the time of the incident. Although Nick and Jackie promised to fully cooperate with the investigation, their subsequent behavior began to raise investigators' suspicions. Corey found herself under extreme stress after the incident. Not only was she grieving the loss of her husband, but she also became a suspect in the police investigation. Being the only survivor at the scene made her the most suspicious person. Investigators conducted several interrogations with Corey. She stated that she and Ted had maintained a peaceful marriage. However, several of Corey's actions appeared suspicious to the police. Within hours of the incident, she declared she wouldn't hold a funeral for Ted, requested the house be cleaned, and attempted to claim Ted's $1 million life insurance policy. These actions deepened investigators' suspicions. Corey was furious about these suspicions. She complained that the police were treating her like a suspect rather than a victim. She explained that she needed funds to run the store and naturally tried to claim the insurance as she was the sole beneficiary. As the investigation progressed, the situation became more complex. While Corey remained cooperative with the police investigation, she began bringing a lawyer to her interviews. Although she desperately pleaded to uncover the truth, she grew increasingly exhausted by investigators' suspicious glances. Prosecutor Amy Meredith, who had examined the crime scene, was convinced this murder was neither a simple robbery nor an impulsive act. She pointed out that the house was too large and dark for outsiders to easily navigate, and the fact that no valuables were stolen suggested it might have been an inside job. However, the suspicious gaze soon turned away from Corey toward another family member, their son, Nick. His strange behavior on the day of the incident raised new questions. While Corey was relieved from suspicion, she soon faced an even greater shock. She couldn't even imagine that her son might be a suspect in this case. But the investigation began taking unexpected turns, and shocking truths started emerging one by one. Nick, who was 19 at the time of the incident, was living with his girlfriend Jackie Edison in College Station, about 100 miles from the crime scene. Nick was working as a day trader with financial support from his parents, while Jackie focused on her studies. The tragic murder of Ted occurred less than 6 months after they had moved out on their own. When an investigator informed Nick of his father's death at the scene, his first words were, "Did my father die painfully?" This was unusual. Typically, when someone learns their parent has been suddenly murdered, they would ask who did it or how it happened. As time passed, he seemed more interested in interviews with reporters gathering at the scene than in talking with the police. Most suspicious was Nick's behavior immediately upon arriving at the house. He went straight to a specific first-floor window, his old room, and the suspected entry point for the intruders. Nick examined the window carefully, which raised investigators' suspicions since they hadn't shared information about the intruder's entry point. Additionally, the investigation team discovered an app on Nick's phone that could access his parents' home security system. Corey stated she often kept the security system turned off, including on the day of the incident. This meant Nick was among those who could verify when the system was disabled. The security system logs showed the window was opened at 4:27 a.m. on the day of the incident, followed by a glass break alarm. Even more suspicious was that while Nick and Jackie claimed they hadn't been to Austin in the past month, Nick's phone records revealed he had been in Austin on February 28th, just 2 days before the incident. As these suspicious circumstances accumulated, the investigation team searched Nick and Jackie's apartment. What they found there was shocking. They discovered ammunition of the same brand and caliber as those found at the crime scene, and even more surprisingly, a marriage certificate for the couple. Nick and Jackie had secretly married 8 months earlier. The person who had officiated their secret wedding was Nick's high school friend, Spencer Patterson. These secretive actions by the couple deepened investigators' suspicions and led to a new direction in the investigation. As the investigation team analyzed Nick and Jackie's phones, shocking content began to emerge. Text messages exchanged between February 23rd and 24th particularly caught investigators' attention. Nick sent a message saying, "Things are in progress," and Jackie replied asking if they want $50,000 and we can't afford to pay half up front. In another conversation, Nick asked Jackie to withdraw money from their account so they could pay in cash when the deal was done. Indeed, Jackie was confirmed to have withdrawn a significant amount of cash from the bank just days before the incident. However, the investigation team still couldn't establish the hitman's identity or direct connection to Nick, and the investigation seemed to hit a dead end. But in early July, 4 months after the incident, the investigation team made an important discovery. While reviewing security camera footage from Nick and Jackie's front door from 2 days before the incident, they noticed a man wearing a green Anderson Window Company uniform. This chance discovery became a breakthrough in the investigation. When investigators visited the window company from the footage, they got another lucky break. An employee recognized the person in the footage. It was Cameron Bosworth, who had worked briefly for the company 4 years earlier. When investigators visited Bosworth's home, his wife made an unexpected statement. She revealed that her husband had received but rejected an offer from someone to kill a couple who owned a jewelry store. The person who made the offer was Johnny Leone, who was the other person seen with Bosworth in the footage. Investigators immediately interrogated Leone, who initially denied any connection to the murder. However, he eventually added, "Wouldn't anyone think twice if someone offered $100,000? His phone records showed multiple contacts around the time of the murder with Aaron Smith, a person living in Fort Worth. The two had been arrested together on drug-related charges a year earlier. These new pieces of evidence led the investigation in a completely different direction. What had appeared to be a simple robbery began to reveal itself as a planned contract killing. And at the center of all these plans was Ted's son, Nick. The investigation didn't stop there. The investigation team continued efforts to find Spencer Patterson, who had officiated Nick and Jackie's wedding. Spencer was Nick's most trusted best friend, and they judged there was a high possibility that Nick had shared his murder plans with Spencer. In May 2018, the investigation team finally found Spencer, and his testimony was shocking. He revealed that Nick had told him he would inherit $8 million right before the incident. Even more horrifying was that Spencer had been the first person Nick asked to commit the murder. The content of the texts Spencer provided was chilling. "Just go in and shoot the whole family. Don't even need masks. They'll all be dead anyway." This gave the investigation team crucial evidence. The information provided by Cameron Bosworth's wife was also decisive. Investigators now felt all the puzzle pieces falling into place. Nick had tried to kill his family to inherit their wealth. After Spencer refused his initial request, he approached Johnny Leone and Cameron Bosworth. When Bosworth refused, Aaron Smith took his place and committed the crime with Johnny Leone. Finally, on May 29, 2018, the investigation team arrested Nick Shonesy and Jackie Edison on charges of soliciting murder. Although Corey still believed in her son's innocence, her conviction began to waver as she read the evidence listed in the arrest warrant. Even after their arrest, Nick and Jackie remained silent about the identities of the actual killers, but the police were already on their trail. Now Corey had to accept the shocking truth that her trusted son and Jackie, whom she had considered family, had tried to kill her and her husband. In spring 2021, the trial for Ted Shonesy's murder began at the Travis County Court in Texas. Prosecutors charged son Nick Shonesy and the actual killers Johnny Leone and Aaron Smith with first-degree murder. At the time, all three faced potential death sentences. Then the prosecution made an unexpected offer. If all three defendants admitted their guilt, they would reduce the charges from first-degree murder to murder and sentence them to 35 years with the possibility of parole. This was their chance to avoid the death penalty. Corey Shonesy struggled deeply with this offer. While the pain of losing her husband was immense, she didn't want to lose her son forever. After long deliberation, she sent Nick a letter urging him to accept the prosecution's offer, believing this is what Ted would have chosen. Leone and Smith immediately accepted the offer, and Nick eventually agreed as well. Thus, all three were sentenced to 35 years, with Nick becoming eligible for parole at age 56. However, the biggest controversy was Jackie Edison's sentence. While prosecutors charged her with conspiracy to commit murder, they surprisingly offered a very light sentence of just 120 days in custody. and 10 years of probation. Although she faced the possibility of 20 years in prison if she violated probation, this was significantly lower than the 35-year sentences given to the other conspirators. Corey expressed extreme anger at this verdict. Instead of attending Jackie's sentencing hearing in 2023, she sent a video message from home, strongly criticizing Jackie for knowing about all the plans but not stopping them. Finally, in October 2023, Jackie was released after serving her 4 months in custody. She claimed her sentence was appropriate for her level of involvement in the crime. But how many would agree with that statement? They had adopted an orphan child and welcomed him as family, but he ultimately tried to kill the parents who raised him. This case of Ted Shaughnessy's murder, which shattered Corey Shaughnessy's life with the loss of her husband, and where justice was thrown away in a cheap deal by prosecutors, ends here.